for the young listeners, Koran, if you really embrace the game and you put into it as much as you possibly can, you don't have to look anywhere else for your vocation, for your career, the rest of your life.
Welcome back to the Coach Godwin Show. It's Coach Koran Godwin, all-time leading scorer at the University of North Florida. Also author of Everyone Hates a Ball Hog, but They All Love a Scorer. If you're not listening to this podcast via my basketball training app, go ahead and search Coach Godwin in your iPhone or Android device, and there you have it, free basketball training information. This podcast is sponsored by ballhoggloves.com. If you're a coach or player interested in taking that ball handling to the next level, go ahead and give these gloves a try. Today we have a special guest. My guest today was an all-state point guard. He actually is from Illinois. He took Illinois to the Final Four, committed there, after his high school career, and just had a great career. He went on to play in the NBA and also overseas. So we're talking about someone with a wealth of basketball experience, especially as it pertains to becoming successful on and off the court. Stephen Bardo, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, my pleasure, Koran. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Stephen, before we get into your background and find out, how you became this successful college basketball analyst that you are today and the road to get there through basketball, start us off with maybe one of your favorite quotes.
You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Oh, man, that quote really hits home. Why is that one of your favorite quotes?
Well, because progress is not made when everything is on time and your stomach is full. And, progress is made when you're hungry, when you're tired, when you've had to push yourself beyond the limits. That's when progress is made. And I try to live my life, whatever I do, I try to always improve and try to make progress and be better than I was the day before. So I always try to tell young people, learn how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Oh, and that's great advice. And Stephen, we're going to dive right in. We went over just a little bit of your background. Obviously, all-state in high school. You did very well in college, leading the team to the Final Four. You played in the NBA. You played overseas, and now you're a successful college basketball analyst. You've been seen on ESPN. You've been seen on, Fox and now the Big Ten Network. But I want to go back to high school. We all heard the infamous story of Michael Jordan being cut from his high school team and how that fueled him to become one of the greatest. Can you take us back to maybe one of the low points of your career in high school before the college coaches were knocking down your door, and how you got over the obstacle?
Oh, man. My older brother, Craig, who's 6 years older, was just really pounding. And, we started on the Nerf hoop, then we go to the playground, and then there was one time when he was away at school, he went to college, and I was really doing well, and my dad had us play one-on-one. It was going to be the summer before my freshman year going to Illinois. And my brother hadn't really seen me play because he was away in college and doing his thing or whatever. And he had finished his college career about 9 months before. And so we go to play one-on-one, and I wore him out. I beat him like he stole something because he was all those years of him running me into the fence, knocking me down, telling me that's no foul. He was toughening me up, and that was kind of payback for all those years of him just wearing me out, making me cry, trying to get me to quit. I wouldn't quit. All the times that he was doing it out of love, but I didn't see it like that. So that was my time of payback.
Oh, man, that sounds great. We have a lot of listeners. A lot of them are players and also coaches that pass on this information. And one of the things that I talk about is work ethic. And, one of my mottos is God first and work until, meaning that, success doesn't have a number on it. There isn't a certain amount of jump shots you have to shoot. There isn't a certain number of hours that you have to work on your ball handling. You work until. So you work until you master your mid-range jump shot. You work until you master that crossover. Can you tell us, give us a little bit insight of your work ethic back then in high school?
it was whenever I wasn't at school, I was trying to work on my game, and it was a love. It really wasn't like it was work. It was just something that I loved to do, and so whenever we were in school, we'd get recess, we'd be hooping. We're at lunch break, we'd hustle up, eat our food, go get some games in. And then after school, you know, we would go and we'd have the eye blinders where you put these things on that didn't allow you to look down and you had to handle the basketball. Or we had to dribble through cones, or we had to stop at chairs and shoot, you know, run full speed, pop and stop at a chair and shoot a jumper. The mic and drill. We did the mic and drill over and over again to work on hand-eye coordination. We used to jump rope. We ran sprints. We did fingertip push-ups. I mean, anything that we could do that we thought would help us, we ended up doing. And it was just hours and hours of work.
And that's great to hear because a lot of people see, you know, guys such as yourself who went on to the University of Illinois to start as a freshman, and you just think that, okay, that's me, it's supposed to happen. So it's great to hear some of the work ethic and the mindset that went behind that. What are some of the other schools that recruited you coming out of high school, and what made you choose Illinois?
Wow, I had a choice of probably 80 top-level Division I schools, like Kansas came late, Georgetown, Kentucky, Louisville, Texas, all the Big Ten schools. And, you know, it was funny. I grew up in Southern Illinois, but I wanted to play for Kentucky.
Yep.
Basketball was, people think it's big now. It was huge when I was growing up. And, you know, I wanted to play for Kentucky. And they recruited a good friend of mine, Rex Chapman, because he and I were in the same age group. And Rex was an All-American. I was an honorable mention All-American. And so I didn't go there. And I was really glad that I chose Illinois because, one, it was in the Big Ten. Two, it was close enough, 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive from home. Close enough where my parents could come see me play, but they couldn't run up on me in a moment's notice.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So, I mean, I chose Illinois, and I knew some of the guys, like Kendall Gill, Nick Anderson. Some of those guys were leaning towards Illinois as well, and I thought it would be a special group, and it turned out to be just that.
And definitely, I mean, after you know, there's been books that have been written about you guys and Flying the Illini, and obviously Dick Vitale coined that and gave you guys plenty of praise. Let's talk about that transition, though, from high school to college. You pick the school, you're on campus. What are some of those experiences like? I can remember it like it was yesterday. My mother and father dropped me off, you know, the University of Buffalo, which is the first school I went to before I transferred to North Florida. And we had a little cookout. And right after the cookout the next day, Coach said, meet me on the track at 5 o'clock a.m. And we had to do the mile under 6 minutes. So tell me about that transition and what you remember.
Well, it was really tough because, you know, when I was playing college basketball, guys didn't really leave early. So, you know, you were coming on a team, a nationally ranked team, for every year that before I got there, playing in the nation's premier conference, which was Big Ten at that time. You know, I wasn't physically strong enough. I thought I was athletic, but I was pretty average once I got to college. The academic rigors, I mean, I had to, you know, we had to go to class from 9 to 1. Then we had to go to practice. Then we had to go to lift weights. Then we had to go to study or go to eat. Then we had to go lift weights. Then we had to go to study hall. I mean, it was like your whole day was taken up, you know, and it was almost like a job.
Yep.
That transition was really, really tough at first. And, you know, I was just glad that I had the benefit of my father who was a student athlete, a basketball player himself. He knew what kind of struggles I was going to encounter. So I was very fortunate to be able to lean on him and for him to really support me during that transition period.
Now, with all that being said, it's noted that you actually started as a freshman. How did you work through all that to break your way into that starting lineup?
Well, my calling card in high school and college, I was a 25-point per game scorer in high school. I could shoot the ball and score. But my father told me that if I could take care of the basketball, the point guard position, and I could be a tenacious defender, I could get on the floor before anybody else. And if I could be trustworthy and I could play defense, things the coach needed, then I would play early and often. And he also told me trying to win every sprint, every running drill, every shooting drill, just act like every drill was a game. And he said if you compete as hard as you can in all those areas and you take care of the basketball and you're the tenacious defender, you'll get on the floor. And so I did that, and he was exactly right. I ended up starting as a freshman because I was just tenacious, and I wouldn't be denied.
And I think that's invaluable information because I get tons of tweets and emails every day about kids that want to know what they can do to actually get more playing time. And I did actually a video blog post where I said, do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do. And the have to do things are the rotating on defense, the sliding over for a charge, the being first in practice every single day. Those are the have to do things. And the want to do things is obviously scoring and getting all the accolades. So I'm glad you're able to share that experience with us. You actually, as a motivational speaker now, you travel the country, and I noticed that you have a program titled Point Guard Vision. How did some of those experiences of you leading Illinois to the Final Four and being that leader in point guard, how does that contribute to your message and what you do now?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge for my overall outlook. I use Point Guard Vision because I was a point guard. I was considered a tremendous leader. And it was because of my vision. I could see things that were coming. I could see things before they happened. I could look at my teammates and know that they needed a push, they needed a hug, or whether they needed a kick in the backside. And I was more like a coach on the floor. And so, sitting down and remembering all those experiences, when you have to make split-second decisions in front of a national audience of 50 million in a Final Four, or you're in a hostile environment in front of 18,000 in Bloomington, Indiana, and you gotta switch your defense because you sense something different and it works, or you get after a teammate and they get mad at you at first, but then that somehow motivates them and they make a play to win a game. All those things translate over into life, and so all of my experiences on the basketball floor, I've been able to transition, and a lot of my success in the broadcasting world, in the motivational speaking world, a lot of it has to do with my basketball experience.
Stephen, you mentioned the word success, and every young basketball player's dream one day is to make it to the NBA. You talk about all these experiences you had, with your older brother, your father, high school, college. You finally get to the point where your name is called in the NBA draft. How did it feel to be at that mountaintop?
Well, it was obviously a dream come true. You work your life to reach a goal. It doesn't seem possible at first. I had a poster of Dr. J on my wall when I was growing up, and my father took me through an exercise because my father started out as a professor in educational psychology, and that's just a fancy word for basically how the mind works. And so, my dad told me one day to go get the poster and go get a school picture from my mother of me smiling. He said, can't be frowning because negative energy doesn't work. He said, take your school picture, cut off Dr. J's head and put your picture on top of it, and then put it back on the wall. And he said, if you look at that poster morning and night, and you work on your game, he said, you'll make the NBA, Steven. And I was 7 or 8 years old at that time. And I didn't dribble very well with my left hand. And so all of a sudden, I kept looking at that poster, I kept working on my game, and my left hand got better. And I kept looking at that poster, I kept working on my game, and all of a sudden, I was beating kids in my neighborhood that I couldn't beat. And I'd look at that poster, and I keep working on my game, and I was the best in Carbondale. Then I was All-State. I was honorable mention All-American in high school. Then I was at University of Illinois. We get to the Final Four. And then on June 20th, 1990, I'm the 41st pick in the NBA draft by the Atlanta Hawks. So, I'm big on visualization. And that was a visualization technique that my father taught me at a very young age that now I try to use for everything that I try to accomplish.
And that's great because I can remember, even myself growing up, I used to get every Slam magazine that I could, and I would cut out the pictures, and whoever was the high school All-Americans or the NBA guys, I literally had my wall filled with them. So that's the first thing I saw, when I woke up, and that's the last thing I saw before I went to bed. So it's, visualization is very powerful, especially when you're talking about, success. Let's talk about the NBA life. I know a lot of people say, once you get that first check and you're a young man, people tend to go crazy. What was your first big expensive purchase after making it to the NBA?
Oh man, that was one of the best life lessons I've ever received. When you're a projected draft pick in the NBA, if a car dealership knows that, they can front you a car based on the fact that if you're going to be a first or second round draft pick in the NBA, based on the kind of money that is projected to make, you can get a car. So this dealership went on and gave me a brand new Jeep Cherokee with it was candy apple red, which is my favorite color, had gold rims on it, had a sunroof, had a banging system. And I thought I was the man. I just thought I was the man. I was driving around right after college. We had just finished up. We were working out. I hadn't been drafted yet. And I went on a barnstorming tour, which was, what you do after your college eligibility is up. You can go around the state and play in these games, and you get a little stipend for each game. So I go down to Southern Illinois, not far from where I grew up. My dad comes and watches the game. He walks out with me to the parking lot, and he's like, whose truck is this? I was like, oh, Dad, check it out, man, it's mine. And I tried to tell him. He listened for about 15 seconds and said, take it back. I said, Dad, you don't understand. He said, Steven, take it back. I said, Dad, no, I'm trying to tell you. He said, son, take it back. He said, you don't know what's going to happen. You break your leg, you don't know what's going to happen. So you need to take that back because nothing is guaranteed right now. You haven't signed anything. And so, I was hot. I was upset, but I took it back. And I ended up getting drafted by the Atlanta Hawks. I didn't make the team. And so I would have been saddled with that debt from that trust had I not listened to my father. So that was a wonderful learning experience for me about money and debt and trying to mortgage your future as opposed to just allowing things to happen. And then, making purchases that you can afford as opposed to what you think you're going to get.
Yeah. Now, with that being said, what advice would you give to a future first-round pick? I know that you travel the country with the Big Ten Network, and you see tons of talented individuals that are going to be making money pretty soon. Matter of fact, a couple months after they get drafted. What advice would you give them? They're going to be inundated with money, fame, women, people with ulterior motives. What advice would you give these young men?
You know what, Koran, it hurts my heart that I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I would tell young people to save as much money as you possibly can. And here's why. Because the majority of those guys that are going to sign these contracts, they have no financial literacy. Typically, in the African American community, financial literacy is not something that we are taught. That's not given to us from our parents. In other cultures, it is. And so the majority of first and second round draft picks in the NBA are going to be African American. So what happens is they're taken advantage of by agents, by people that hang on, by family members, by all these different people that have no clue about the value of a dollar. So I would suggest that young people who are going to come into this money, save your money until you figure out what it is you need to do with your money. Become responsible for how money works and for your information and knowledge on money. Do not allow someone else to tell you how to invest your money. It's everyone's responsibility to manage their own money. And as a NBA player, I've seen so many guys, Koran, have millions of dollars, guys that I even played with, millions of dollars, and they're in their 40s now and they're broke. That should never happen. The type of money they make is equivalent of a small business. And if it's done right, not only them, but their family, their children can benefit from sound financial advice. So my advice, save your money and learn how to manage money yourself. Do not depend on somebody else.
And that's great advice. And I know that someone listening, to this podcast is really going to take away from that. And like you said, there are people out there that will take advantage of you. These guys are worth a whole lot of money. Let's talk about that same person, because right now, as we speak, you've been able to transition yourself from a basketball player into a basketball analyst. And in order to do that, you have to have a certain type of personality. You have to have a brand that people can connect with, that would allow a network like ESPN or Fox to actually, have you actually speak to the public. How should these athletes be conducting themselves nowadays as it pertains to everything being recorded in social media and just their day-to-day lives that's going to allow them to make the transition that you made?
There's three key parts to this. The first part is for young players to understand there's a money language, and then there's black vernacular. Money language you can broadcast on television. Black vernacular, the only person that can use black vernacular is Charles Barkley, and he's a legend on the air. There'll never be another Charles Barkley.
Yep.
So what players have to understand is that you got to learn the King's English. You can't use the language that you use around your boys and in the hood. You have to use the money language that everyone else uses that conducts business. Second, you must find a mentor. A mentor will shave years off of your learning curve when you're trying to get into broadcasting. Because there's certain tricks of the trade, there's certain things that you can do while you're still playing that can shorten your learning curve and that can put you in position to where you can be seen by other people. So get a mentor. Third, if you're really serious about going into broadcasting, this is the best time ever, because there's something called YouTube, there's something called social media that you can start to create your own brand right now without a network even having any knowledge about what you're doing. You can create your own empire based on these tools that you can start to use right now without anyone else's permission. And I was very fortunate to, in Chicago, I opened up the phone book and called 46 media outlets. And I got told no 45 times. One brother, Jim Berry, who is one of my mentors and good friends to this day, said, you know what? I like your drive. I like your spunk. Come on in and let's talk. And he was a sports reporter at CBS Chicago, and he ran a sports show on a local radio, black-owned radio station. So I got a chance to really intern under him. And then another network saw it. I worked on CLTV as a Bulls analyst in my off season when I was home from overseas. And so I worked 5 or 6 years before my career was even finished in broadcasting, doing different things as an intern. So look for internships and opportunities to hone your craft before you're even finished playing. You don't want to start when you're finished. You want to be starting while you're still playing, because people will pick up the phone while you're still playing and they know your name.
And that's great advice. That takes me back to a story of Magic Johnson, who said that when he was playing, when he would go on away trips, he would invite the top CEOs of that particular city. So if it was Chicago, he'd invite the top CEOs there to come watch his game. And he said he was able to develop a network of people that remembered that, and people that he can actually come to after his playing career was over, and ask him about opportunities and just overall information and advice. So that's great advice. Now that you are a successful college basketball analyst, and you actually, they have the phrase "ball is life," which is a company, a website. And you've proved that ball is life, because basketball is now paying you. It paid you with a scholarship to Illinois. It paid you professionally in the NBA and overseas, and now basketball continues to pay you as an analyst. What's your day-to-day life like, and are you still in love with basketball?
Oh man, I owe my life to the game. I really do. The opportunities that I've been afforded, the people that I've met, the places I've gone. I mean, I've been to Italy, Spain, France, Germany, Venezuela, Japan, Malaysia, Canada, Mexico. I know I'm missing Antigua. I'm missing 3 or 4 different countries. All basketball. I mean, for the young listeners, Koran, if you really embrace the game and you put into it as much as you possibly can, you don't have to look anywhere else for your vocation, for your career, the rest of your life. The game will pay you back what you put into it. And I've been in love with the game. I would still play if my knee didn't hurt like crazy the day after I played. I still enjoy that camaraderie that you get. There's nothing like playing pickup basketball with guys and being able to talk a little stuff and shoot a game-winning jumper. It doesn't matter that it's pickup. It's still the game. So the game of basketball, I'm in love with it, have been, always will be. And I just encourage anybody that really loves the game, you don't have to leave the game. The game can take care of you the rest of your life if you treat it the right way.
Oh, Steven, man, that's just a great testament to what hard work and work until can do in your life. And I know that the coaches and basketball players took so many jewels away from this interview. Steven, tell the audience how they can get in contact with you on social media and some of the things that you got going on right now.
Social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all Steven Bardo, that's STEPHEN, Bardo, BARDO. You can go to my website at StevenBardo.com, and you can also check me out on BTN.com, which is Big Ten Network's website. I do some writing and video posts on there as well, so you can check me out in any of those areas.
All right, well, Steven, it was just a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Jumpstart Hoops Nation, there you have it, Steven Bardo. I mean, just to hear his journey, just to hear just the dream of a young man that put a basketball, in his hand and wanted to maximize his potential. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's about being successful on the court and off. And like I said before, this was just a great testimony. And if you guys aren't inspired by this, I don't know what's going to get you going. All right. But as always, go ahead and download that basketball training app. Search Coach Godwin if you haven't done so already in your iPhone or Android device. And I always say, God first, work until.